So next you'll find your way to the Opera House. You'll speak to this chap here, who will then open the doors to let you in. There's 3 possible fights you can get. It's random each week. So there is Big Bad Wolf, which we're going to cover first. Then we'll be looking at Romulo and Julienne. And then finally the Wizard of Oz. So for Big Bad Wolf, just before I hand over to Stu to go over the mechanics, the group composition you're going to want is 1 tank. So it's just a 1 tank fight, 2 to 3 healers, and a mix of DPS.
Yeah, and so Big Bad Wolf's abilities, he's going to randomly turn someone into Little Red Riding Hood throughout the fight, and basically you'll drop your armor to 0 and increase their run speed by 50%. Terrifying Howl, that causes nearby enemies to flee in fear for 3 seconds. And Wide Swipe stuns anyone in front of the boss for 4 seconds, so don't be there.
Okay, so to bring all of this together and put it into an actual strategy, you're going to want to have your tanking the Big Bad Wolf towards one of the walls, and then everybody else on the opposite side. Melee, stand behind the boss, so you obviously don't get swiped and stunned, because it's pointless damage. Just be wary that you can get feared, so keep totems down, fear wards, etc. But that is only in the melee that should be at risk. So Stu's going to explain Little Red Riding Hood ability.
Periodically, you'll turn a raid member into the terrifying Little Red Riding Hood.
Why are you doing the voice? It's the wolf who's the terrifying one.
Good point. Yeah, sorry, just Little Red Riding Hood. This will decrease their armor value to 0 and increase your run speed by 50%. Basically, kite the wolf around the perimeter of the room, staying close to the walls without touching it. It's going to slow you down, and you might get gobbled up.
Gobbled up. But anyway, So quite a simple fight. Tank and spank. You're going to get feared. Kite the boss around the room when you turn into Little Red Riding Hood. Collect your free loot.
Yeah, easy fight.
Okay, so then the other possible boss that you can encounter is Romulo and Julienne, or Romeo and Juliet. So quite an easy fight. You're going to fight them one at a time to begin with, and then you'll go into fight them both together. So obviously this is a 2 tank fight, 2 to 3 healers, and then range DPS, a mixture. You are going to want a couple of people that can interrupt.
Yeah. So Julienne's abilities, Eternal Affection, absolutely needs to be interrupted. Heals for about 1/3 of her life or 1/4 of Romulo's. Powerful Attraction, that stuns a target for 6 seconds. Blinding Passion does around 1500 holy damage, then a dot for 4 seconds. And Devotion, which is a dispellable self buff, increasing spell damage and casting speed by 50%, that lasts for 10 seconds. Got spell still written all over it, that.
It has indeed. And the only other things, so for Romulo, not going to mention them all, just the 2 main things that you need to worry about. The Poison Thrust, which is dispellable on the tank, and you absolutely want to dispel it because you don't want it stacking up. Gets Daring, so that's pretty much the same as the buff that Julienne gets. So it is purgeable, dispellable, spell stealable, whatever. You obviously want to keep that off the boss.
So yeah, it begins with Julienne, main tanker in a corner of the room. Interrupt her spells, especially the heals. When she buffs herself with Devotion, remove it. Once she's dead, Romulo will spawn.
So yeah, Romulo, again, like I said before, you're going to want to keep poison, abolish poison if you've got a druid, or poison cleansing totem, or just manually get rid of the poison on your tank who's got Romulo. Because, that's a nasty debuff that's going to stack up. There is a couple of other things that Romulo does, but nothing too much to worry about. He does a strike behind him, so it doesn't matter whether if you stood behind him, you're still going to occasionally get hit, but that's nothing to worry about. So once you've killed them individually, they're both up. So now you're going to want to basically focus Julienne first, get her to about 20%, and then leave 1 interrupter and 1 person who can dispel. This would be good for a priest, so a healing priest we normally leave just on Julienne with a rogue. Interrupt him, obviously, with the tank in it, and then everybody else switches to Romulo.
And then do exactly the same as the fight before. Yeah, as what you've just done, do exactly the same again. Nuke him down to I would go to 10%, and then you can just nuke them both down at the same time. They've got to die within 10 seconds of each other. If not, one resurrects the other.
Yep, that's right. So quite an easy fight. Nuke one, nuke the other, keep them both dispelled, keep Julienne interrupted, kill them both at the same time. Boom. And then the final encounter, which you may get, which is probably the most challenging one out of all of them. It's not hard. It's just there's a lot going on. So this is the Oz encounter. So this is to get Crone, the Crone at the end, but you have to deal with all these ads first. None of these ads are particularly lethal. They've all got various abilities. We don't need to go into all of them. All we need to know is how to control them. So Stu?
Yeah. Okay. So depending on your group setup, if you've got a warlock can basically fear Raw, keep fear on Raw throughout the fight, and Strawman just hit him with fire spells, immolate, searing pain, things like that. He can potentially gain a disorient effect for 6 seconds, and Raw just keep feared.
Yeah, so there's multiple ways you can do this. So yeah, Strawman is vulnerable to fire damage. Every time he takes fire damage, he's got a chance to basically self-disorientate for 6 seconds. So yeah, you'll have a mage or a warlock preferably. Just keep Strawman under control. You can also, with Raw, because he's classed as a beast, you can also scare beast. So if you've got a hunter but you haven't got a warlock, then you can scare beast. So if you had a hunter and a fire mage, for example, you'd have the fire mage on Strawman, you'd have the hunter keeping Raw, scare beast. But ultimately fearing him as a warlock is great because you've got one class, being the warlock, being able to take 2 of the adds out of the fight, only the DPS loss of 1 person in the raid, which it's not really a DPS loss because you're gonna nuke Strawman anyway. So basically, by the time we get through all the adds, Strawman will probably have been pretty much soloed by your warlock or your mage. So you're gonna want your main tank on Tinhead because he does hit quite hard. But when he rusts, so Sunder Armor can cause him to rust, and so can Frost spells. You can just kite him for a little bit. As long as you're top on threat on it, it doesn't matter. You might as well not get hit. So the general kill order, you're going to want everybody to nuke down Dorothy ASAP. Just get rid of Dorothy. Then erase her dog as well, so the dog will be dying from cleave. Then you're going to want to go on to Raw, because this just saves the warlock or your hunter from being out of the fight too much. So get Raw down ASAP, so have your tank pick that up. Then you're going to want to focus down Tinhead. Obviously, like I said before, he can be kited. By the time you've got all of those under control, Strawman should be pretty much dead, if he's not died already, by the mage or warlock keeping the fire spells on him. Remember, there's lots of ways to skin a cat when it comes to this fight, but that is the strategy that we use. So once all the bosses are dead,
we get the crone, the actual real boss, the Wicked Witch of the Karazhan. So yeah, once they're all dead, the crone spawns. She's not really got any vulnerabilities. The main tank will pick her up. Only thing to be wary of is the cyclones that travel around the room. They'll knock someone into the air. They do quite a lot of damage. Just avoid them mainly, and from there on, it's a tank and spank fight. Killer, get the lovely witch's hat.
Yep. So it's quite a simple fight actually. It seems like there's a lot going on to begin with, but once you know what your individual responsibilities are on the fight, so if you're a warlock, you've got more responsibility than the others, but once you can get that under control, yeah, fairly simple.
Yeah.
And that's all of the opera. So we might as well crack on with Curator. When they both come together,
what's going to happen? If you kill, they've got to die within 10 seconds of each other. If not, I shouldn't have picked my nose then. They've got to die within 10 seconds of each other. If not, one resurrects the other.
Yep, that's right. So quite an easy fight.